first episode was, without the name of the podcast. Mm-hmm. It's Karakorum. And thank you, Alpamus, for this title. Alpamus is also our MPP graduate. Yeah, and the meaning of this name, Karakorum, is like, Karakorum city place was a place when all tribes of Kazakh came to Kurultai and they discussed how they can defend their land territory against Jungars back then. So, and also it has several meanings, but here maybe we'll discuss it. Maybe our listeners can guess in the comments what else we mean by Karakorum. Сәлем. Бүгін біздің қонақта Colin және Aigerim. Colin жоғары мемлекеттік саясат мектебінің профессоры, Vice Dean for Academic Affairs, and 5 жылдай оқып қалды. Біздің Қазақстанда сабақ бергеніне, профессор болғанына, Назарбаев университетте. Және Aigerim GSPP-дің түлегі, дұрыс па?
Иә, дұрыс.
Yeah. Өздерің туралы айтып берсеңіз.
Shall we start from me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. As Madi said, I have 2 names. One of them is Aigerim, which is my real passport name. Mm-hmm. But I prefer another one, Adema. It was given by my auntie, my favorite one. Because we have this Kazakh tradition, and I don't know about the southern part, but in Aktau, when your brother gets married, his wife is supposed to give you another name. So if her husband has nieces and nephews, their wives are not supposed to call you by your first name. So she gave me another one, and I really liked it. And I was like, from now on, I'll be Adema.
What does it mean? Adema?
In Kazakh,
Beautiful.
Adema, yes. So it got Russianized into Adema. So I took it from there. And when I went abroad to study, I just used it. And when I came back to Kazakhstan after 6 years, and everyone was calling me Aigerim, I was like, I'm not Aigerim. I'm Adema. So I'm still getting used to it.
Good.
To be an Aigerim.
Yeah, another 2 facts.
Another 2 facts. Another one that I'm really proud of is that I studied in Belfast in Northern Ireland.
What a coincidence.
Such a coincidence. So I'm really happy to be here interviewing and talking and chatting to Professor Knox. Because it's like, when I used to tell this to everyone, when I hear Professor Colin talking, it's like his accent is just like music to my ears. I'm just like sitting like this in lectures and listening to his accent.
But I don't have an accent, Adema.
You do.
I think it's authentic English language, no?
Perfect English.
Perfect English.
I agree. And the last one, I don't know. I'm from I think I told everyone that I'm from Aktau. I'm also a GSPP alumni. I done Master in Public Administration, currently working at a diplomatic mission.
Yeah. So, but also you told that you had experience in insurance, huh?
Yeah, social insurance fund. Yeah. It was a good one. But
the topic is, insurance for me is like, I don't know, it's like something I don't understand.
Yeah, I didn't either. It was a good one because now I finally got to know what kind of benefits and contributions participants of the compulsory social insurance system can pay and can get.
It's about medical, right? Or
no,
not only
social. It's
social?
about maternity, unemployment, loss of job,
welfare, some benefits, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, it's now for you to talk, right?
It's unusual for me to be shy. So I suppose 3 facts about me are that I have been working in Kazakhstan and GSPP in Nazarbayev University for 6 years now. Although I'd been coming to Kazakhstan for about 3 or 4 years before that, working on European Union projects for short periods of time. So I kind of had a feel for what it was like to be in Kazakhstan. I liked it very much. However, I wasn't prepared for the long winters. So my first winter here was like by February time, I was saying, is the winter never going to end in this country? But you do get used to it. And Kazakhstan's a very hospitable country. It's a lovely country to work in, lovely people. The second fact, I don't know if it's interesting or not, is that I'm from a very large family, which is not unusual in Kazakh terms. So I'm from a family of 14, including my parents.
Wow.
So my parents plus 12 children, and
Wow.
I'm number 2. Actually, I feel like I'm number 1, but number 2 in the pecking order.
Okay.
So it's good to be from a large family because, like Kazakhs, you often depend on your siblings to help you out. So that's nice. And actually, as you get older, which I am, I think those relationships are stronger. You know, you tend to depend on your brothers, sisters, and
Closest one.
Closest one, yeah. And I suppose the third fact is that I've worked in a lot of countries, a lot of developing countries on usually public sector reform, civil service reform projects. So I've worked in places like Russia, Georgia, South Africa, Israel, Palestine, and many European countries, Central, Eastern European countries. So ending my career in Kazakhstan is a kind of a fitting end to a career that was very transient. I'm like a global traveler, like Kazakh people, a nomad in international terms. So ending up in Kazakhstan is probably fitting.
Now we can talk about smaller families. I mean, it's usual to have 2, 3, yes?
Yeah.
In general, I know maybe it's because it's, capitalism, I know, digitalization, globalization, everything. But in our culture, and especially in South Kazakhstan, we have large families. And for example, my father, he has 6 siblings. And for example, his brothers and sisters and our relatives, they have also like 9, 8 siblings. So I don't know. In the past, it was usual thing to have such large families, many brothers, sisters. Yeah. Why do you think now people prefer to have 1, 2, 3 like smaller families? And it's kind of what is because of this child removed or what? Or maybe people are busy doing their careers, success.
Yeah, I think in Western societies anyway, it's a financial issue. I think that increasingly just with the cost of living, mother and father usually both have to go out to work. Both parents have to go out to work. So it becomes increasingly difficult, I think, if both parents have to work for them to have large families. And again, in Western societies, the cost of child minding is very expensive. So it just kind of doesn't make economic sense. I know maybe that's not the right way to talk about families, whether you can afford them or not, but that's the reality. Many families now struggle if they get a larger number of children. And I think that creates a kind of pressure on families to keep their family size small.
In developed countries, they kind of measure, calculate everything, and they think about cost of having 2, 3, and many children. But, for example, we don't think, for example, in our culture, we don't think about cost. Many families, they think about happiness. And happiness in our culture is mostly because of family, having large family, many children. It's like non-material happiness.
I think in Western culture, having no kids is also happiness. I know so many European people who are child-free and they're absolutely happy. For some people, having kids is like
Disaster?
not disaster, but they take it as a burden. So it really depends. It really depends on the maybe culture, on people. Some people are happy without kids. And I do agree that Westerners are more responsible when it comes to kids. They do calculate because cost of living is really high there. But here we're more of, I think it's called collective culture, where we value having family and many siblings, relatives. But now, since we're getting more, we see how West is evolving, so we try to kind of like follow their path. Maybe some people do, and that's why we're kind of like getting to that stage where we also start to plan when to have kids and how many.
No, I think Adema is absolutely right, and there are many examples of that in Western societies where couples opt, that is a part of their game plan, not to have children.
So
Particularly
child-free, being child-free, right?
being child-free, and that's their own choice.
Yeah.
And many of them who are very career-minded, particularly, people in their early 20s through to mid-30s, who are in kind of fast track in their careers, they see that as their first priority to develop a good lifestyle, to have a good income. Maybe as they reach those ages, they may rethink, is it now time to have children? So you see the onset of older parents in Western societies. Not sure that's a good thing or not. I mean, again, it's a very much an individual thing, but I see in Kazakh society here, very young mothers. And often when I look at them, I kind of think they've in some ways lost a little bit of their youth because they have families so soon. On the other hand, they live to enjoy their children as they are middle-aged people. So they have, nice families around them when they're still young enough to enjoy those families. Whereas you delay childhood until your mid-30s, late 30s, early 40s. You have teenage children while you're in your 60s and you're maybe just not so fit and agile to deal with your children at that stage.
And there is this gap, right, between parent and child.
That's right.
Age gap.
That's
so
right.
Parents will not understand this young generation
Yes.
and everything.
If I may just add, so I don't want to hog this discussion as I usually do, but another interesting facet of that family relationship in Kazakhstan is how you treat your older people. And since I am now going into that category, I have a vested interest here. So I see some very good traits here in Kazakhstan that unfortunately we have lost in Western society. And the very good trait is that you look after older people very well. You tend to look after them within your family unit. So just to give you a very personal example, my mother, who died last year, was 91 years of age. And even though I came from a very large family, it was very difficult for us to manage her care as she got older. And it's not uncommon then for older people to go into care homes, to go into nursing homes. So I remember when I was here talking to some of my colleagues and they were asking about my parents, and my father is dead. And I said, my mother's still alive at that stage, but she's in a care home. And they said to me, what's a care home? And I said, well, it's a place for looking after elderly people. And they said, you mean you pay to have your mother looked after? And when they put it in that terms, I thought, that's a terrible thing to do, And we have no excuse because we're a large family and could share that responsibility. But actually, that's very common. Now, as it happened in my mother's case, she needed nursing care. She needed attention for medical needs, which we couldn't give her. But it's not uncommon in Western societies as people get older to put them into these care homes. That's very un-Kazakh, if I can describe it in that way.
I think it's considered a shame if you like if I can call it, leave your parents in care homes.
Yeah.
People will definitely judge you, I think.
It's not only shame, but also I think it's kind of this duty that children
Look
and
after.
maybe grandchildren, they have this duty to our parents, grandparents, they gave their life to for our upbringing, to give our education, to provide this everything, and I personally think that I need to give back. And how can I give back? I need to take care of them when they are older, but also not in the way like going to some, but just keep them within family. Do not lose ties with them.
Sure.
Sometimes, something like this. Or maybe, for example, in my family, my grandmother also died in the beginning of this year in February, but she always went from one home to another home. For example, from my father, he visited us, spent some time, weeks, months in our home. Then he went to other sons' home and other daughter's home and everything. But this kind of traveling between her children became more and more difficult because she had this medical care.
Sure.
Yeah. The doctors are better, and we have some special hospitals in Shymkent, for example. That is why last year she spent most of her time in Shymkent, because it's a large city with good healthcare centers. We never thought about giving her to these places, and we lack them. Yeah. Basically, we lack these places.
Yeah, that's why I think when so-called developed countries think that they're advancing their society, I think they lose some of those traditional values. And that has been very obvious to me as a foreigner here in Kazakhstan, that you value those relationships, that you invest in those relationships.
Right.
So to use Adema's word, I feel suitably guilty and ashamed. But remember,
you don't need to feel guilty.
You mustn't feel guilty, because actually care homes, I am sure, are really different and far better than care homes here.
I watched this Afterlife, I guess, Netflix show, and he had this care home where his father, I guess, was. And even in this small town, this care home for elderly people, it was interesting. I guess they had some activities for them. The nurses came, took care, and it's kind of camp for older people.
Yeah, I mean, the benefit of those care homes is that they have very good medical access. So, for example, if there's some health incident happens, they have a direct access to the hospital. So when a care home calls the hospital, they will be waiting to admit an elderly person.
What is the average life expectancy in UK?
I don't know the official figures, but it's probably late 70s.
Late 70s.
Mid to late 70s, I would guess.
Is it similar, like, for example, in Kazakhstan, we have some regions that have good healthcare, but in UK, is it?
Yeah, well, we have this system called the National Health System in the UK, where all medical access is free, and it's generally high quality. I mean, we pay much higher taxes than here in Kazakhstan, so we pay for it indirectly. So healthcare facilities are generally good, but with the onset of the pandemic, many of those, if you like, routine operations, routine medical care procedures were relegated to lower priority incidents because of COVID patients. And the healthcare system hasn't really recovered properly. So there's now very long waiting lists for sometimes even relatively minor procedures. So people sometimes look at the UK as an example of, you know, a great healthcare system. A, it's very expensive. B, you can wait a long time to get minor procedures, operations.
Great Britain. I mean, when we study and learn English, usually we have this, you know, ideal picture of Great Britain. Like London is the capital, and UK and the Queen and everything.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And when you and it's difficult. It's interesting when sometimes people who are born, who lived in this kind of developed countries, they sometimes highlight or share these kind of stories, showing that we are not ideal, we're not perfect.
This is just one short example of that. We had some Kazakh students to my former university in Belfast, and they sat in on our MPA classes. They were there for internships through Bolashaq. And I remember one lady they were mature students. One or two of them taught in the Academy of Public Administration here in Nur Sultan. And I remember one lady coming up to me, one Kazakh lady coming up to me after a class where we were discussing like the quality of our state and public services. And she was saying, you know, I just found that discussion quite amazing, because what you were talking about there was very marginal changes in very good services. What they sometimes describe in English as dancing on the point of a pin. You know, a very small improvement in services which were, as far as she was concerned, very good. And I think maybe to external visitors, that is what they see. But for people who live there, you know, we can always, I suppose because we have good services, we always want better.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the health service, which is a big drain on the budget. Because our healthcare services are good and our medical training is very good, people want more and more of that service, and they want even better training amongst doctors and so on. So in a sense, the better the services become, the more people demand of them.
That's universal, I guess. We people demand more and better every time in any sphere, you know, in our life. I think we'll die demanding something.
In Kazakhstan. It's all right, though. We have to demand better services. I can actually give example as well of a medical conditions or service. I once got, I had some kind of an illness for a very short period of time. So I got to this Belfast City Hospital, and it was very quick. My mother actually was beside me because she came to visit, and we had such great plans to visit London and everything, and I got sick. So we spent our whole week in the hospital. But then the place was so nice. The service was great. I was placed in a room with almost like a double bed. It was like a hotel room, and they kept feeding me with so much food. And since my mom was beside me, they gave her food as well, which you wouldn't expect here in our local hospitals at all. And my mom didn't want to leave me because I was in a very bad condition. So they let her stay in the hospital with me, like in bed with me. So I thought it's really nice, because even though I spent like 3 days in a hospital here, it was still really bad because the hospital was so full and they didn't even have a place for me. And they placed a bed in this like really small room. There were already 4 patients, and they placed one more bed saying, okay, your corner is there, you can just like unpack and lie there.
That's a coincidence, Adema, because my nephew is a doctor in Belfast City Hospital, where you've just described.
Maybe I saw him there. It was him who was feeding me.
Who's feeding you, yeah. Maybe, yeah. So it's a coincidence. Small world.
No, it was a great place, and it was all free.
So
because I was, sorry, Madi, because I was working actually in Belfast. It was a part-time job, but I was still paying taxes. And I think that's why I qualified for the free medical service.
The medical service, like locals in
like
general,
a local person, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what about foreigners?
I'm
Do
not
they have this
sure.
similar service for foreigners? Or because in Kazakhstan it's kind of difficult for foreigners to get this insurance, medical insurance. So they usually pay for some.
Yeah. I'm not actually sure. And I think with the whole migration issue, I think they have relaxed many of those rules because they've been welcoming people from conflict zones. So I think they want to give them as good a service as possible.
The population can be, the number of people can increase naturally by having large families. But the case of Europe is like more and more European families have 1, 2, or no children, and they have this many migrants, yes, or refugees coming, and I think somehow there is a balance, yes. There is no kind of degradation and no decrease in population, yeah.
No, but I think there's a difference between families themselves deciding what size of family they want or whether they want a family at all, compared to somewhere like China, which
one child policy.
So I think the state does not interfere in kind of family life and say you must grow your families. Having said that, and one of the reasons I think I'm from a large family in my generation, which was, I'm afraid to say this, the 1950s, when neither of you were born. But in that generation, particularly in Ireland, the church had a very strong voice. The church, the Catholic religion, the Catholic faith, and they promoted the idea of large families, family values, and so on.
Family institute, yeah.
Exactly, yeah, family units. So in promoting that, often Irish Catholic mothers accepted the word of the church. It wasn't mandatory, but often priests would be kind of saying, I see you've only one child. When will you be giving him or her a brother or a sister? So there was a kind of like moral suasion, moral pressure,
right,
from the church.
We have similar case with in our culture. Well, for example, I'm like young husband. Today is actually like 2 years of my marriage.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Ahmaral. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Why aren't you out with your wife tonight rather than podcasting?
Yeah, I had lunch with her, but then I said I have this work to do, so I'm sorry. But we'll go out. She's going to Singapore.
Oh, right. Okay.
In 3 days or something.
Fantastic.
Like, so.
And leaving you behind.
Yeah. But so I feel this pressure. I know it's social, cultural, something like, well, when both of you having the children first, and when I guess, and many my peers say that when they have their first child, they're
saying when's the next?
When's the next? Or second one? And when you're single, you have this pressure of when you're getting married and something like this. Yeah, you feel it?
Definitely.
You can relate?
Yeah, definitely. In Aktau, they took it even farther because when I went there, and I haven't been there in a long time, my grandmother passed away about 3 weeks ago. So I saw all my relatives there. And they know that I'm married for almost 4 years now. And those relatives that I haven't seen in years, they didn't ask me when I'm going to have a kid. They were like, how many kids do you have?
There's an assumption that you automatically...
Yeah, definitely. Because 4 years, and they expect you to have 2 or 3 kids by now. So they're like, how many kids do you have?
Do they know your husband?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
So there's that kind of moral pressure, if you like.
Yeah.
Came in Ireland in a different form through the church rather than through relatives or peers. But that pressure has been removed now because the Catholic Church has been through many scandals, and people don't regard it with the same kind of level of respect So therefore, what priests say carries much less weight. And what we talked about earlier, just the financial cost of having large families. So,
But I think in our culture we have this voice of imams. Oh, I know. I can say mosques. Yeah, mosques. So I mean, the influence of Islam is huge, especially in West and in South. So I think one of the reasons, one of the factors why we have this we have this pressure of get married, have children, and everything. It's also because of this Islam, and in Islam you are encouraged to marry early and have many children, and also there was sometimes at the beginning, yes, when we got independence in Kazakhstan, government, I mean, there was a policy encouraging people, especially Kazakhs, to have more and more children. I even remember first president saying like, no, we need more Kazakh population, and they introduced this, award for.
They're called Kumus Alqa.
Yeah, Kumus Alqa, Altın Alqa for mothers with many children. And it was like in the policy, they introduced the policy of having large families, and that's why, for example, in 90s we had only 40%, around 30-40% of Kazakh population, and now it's kind of 70 something. Yes, in 30 years. You see, we was a minority. I mean Kazakh ethnicity. We were a minority, and we became, nation building ethnicity.
As a foreigner, those are some of the very good things I see about Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
The kind of very positive family values, that sense of community, sense of relatives being important, and so on. But there are also some things that, as a foreigner, I observe about Kazakhstan. That
Eating horses? No.
Well, that's potentially one. Although I do like horse meat myself, but these are minor things. But as a foreigner, I think they're quite common. And one is punctuality.
We are late.
You're late. So
I think it's stereotype, no?
All that I can tell you is that, and Adema will confirm this, that I have this very strict policy in class that if somebody comes in late, I deduct 5% of their marks. It's a very tough kind of penalty.
Mark of final grade?
Yeah, of the final grade. Yep. So usually it happens once or twice, and as they start to lose marks, then they become accustomed to it. So I think that's a trait. I mean, I'm not saying that people from my country are always punctual, but they're certainly much more punctual than Kazakh people.
You respect people's time more than we.
Yeah. And these are just minor kind of observations about my time in Kazakhstan. The second thing that I notice about Kazakhstani people, particularly young people that I work with in the university, is that they change jobs really, really often. It's
One example here.
How many jobs did you change?
Well, I came here, I moved to Astana in 2014. I got a small internship at the Ministry of Justice, and then I left for the consulting company PwC, and then I left for Nazarbayev University, changed 2 positions there, and then I went to the British Embassy. And then in 2021, I went to the State Social Insurance Fund, and now I am at the Serbian Embassy. So 7 in 8 years. In 8 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, maybe that's the way in which you see your career trajectory improving. But as a Westerner, our job patterns, and maybe it's got something to do with how our economy is structured, that maybe we have a more stable economy and therefore people feel less likely to change jobs. But it surprised me when I first sat on interviewing panels here in Kazakhstan and I looked at people's CVs, young people like yourselves, CVs. And one of my first reaction was like, is there something wrong with this person that she's had 7 jobs in 7 years? In other words, like, was she an unhappy employee? Was her employer unhappy with her? But as I lived and worked here, I actually see it's the way that young people plan their career trajectory. So they don't think anything of having very short-term careers. I mean, I've been working in Nazarbayev University 6 years, and I consider that like a short period of time. Just because, my former university, I was there for over 30 years.
Wow.
Okay, so maybe I'm a very different generation, and maybe younger generations job hop, as they say in the UK.
Job hop. Yeah, I think it's generational because it's universal.
Yeah.
I have so many friends from not only in Kazakhstan but everywhere. They say that it is good to change, to get out of comfort zone, change, have experience here, there, and become professional. But I prefer being loyal and being, good in one thing. And I think changing positions, in my opinion, it can changing focus. You cannot focus on one thing and and rather than being master in many things, I think it's better to be
an expert
in one field. But it's my opinion. I don't know. Sometimes it's good to have this,
breadth of experience,
wide horizon. Yeah. This experience of doing here, and maybe you'll find your
niche,
your place. Yeah, when you'll decide, okay, this place I would like to develop my career. Yeah,
it really depends on the person. I think because I get interested in so many things. When I was in the consultant job, I thought I think I want to try myself in the education, in the more of operational tasks. I want to see how it works. I want to meet professors. And once I got there, in a year time, I thought, okay, now I know this place. I want to try something else.
Boring.
I want to see diplomatic mission. Okay, I'll try myself there. Yeah. I'm always like, I'm just afraid that I will miss out
on opportunities.
On opportunities, yes. So that when I'm like much older, I'm like, I always wanted to try this, but now I don't have time or I don't have resources or energy or the age. Why have I not tried it before?
Sure.
I'm just like afraid of missing things, and that's why I'm trying myself.
Yeah, and sometimes people think like this, and they become tired of routine and working for someone, for some company, and that's why they decide to start their own company or their own business or something.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about business?
Especially in IT.
In IT, startups.
Because that's the way to upgrade your salary.
So
basically, you can if you change position, you can get salary 2 times.
In
2 years, again 2 times.
Right.
That's like a salary.
It's promotion. Yeah, basically. You change your job because of when you go there, you have higher salary or better benefits, better conditions.
Yeah, but for me, I think I thought we wouldn't touch on this topic, but I think we will because of this COVID-19 thing. I think it changed a lot of people's mindsets. When we were sent home to work from home, and then when we came back to the office, I thought, I don't want to work in the office anymore from 9 to 6 because it was killing me. It was actually, I think, shown that people can work from anywhere and can still deliver good results. And I thought I could work from a cafe or something, from a coffee shop, and still do my work. Why do I have to sit in this box for 8 hours without being able to combine other things?
Sure.
Can you relate to this?
Absolutely, yeah. Because it has made, I mean, in our own field of work, higher education, it has made us rethink, you know, the fact that we have a model of higher education that says you go in, you stand in front of students, you teach, you come out and you give them exams. Because almost overnight, we had to rethink how we delivered higher education. And it was challenging. And I think even though we've now moved back to face-to-face teaching, it has opened up opportunities for doing things differently that we wouldn't otherwise have done, that we, you know, until we were kind of forced to rethink our modus operandi, we hadn't really considered different forms of delivery, you know, this hybrid mode, the distance learning mode and so on.
But they worked.
They worked,
didn't they?
yeah. To a fashion. I mean, I think our IT maybe wasn't quite up to the job of doing hybrid teaching, but you know, we delivered the courses because we had to. Like other businesses, they got on with it and they adapted.
You were forced to do it,
Yeah.
but I personally, I love and I like learning, and I don't care about is it online or offline, but I enjoy, you know, in person discussions. When you feel, you see people.
Sure.
And even if we live in this, you know, world of technology, digitalization and everything, I think nothing can substitute, you know, traditional offline lectures. I know. And this was my conclusion after this pandemic.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there are additional benefits to that kind of face-to-face mode in the sense that you bond with the other students in your class, you become friends, it's not just what you're learning in the classroom, you're listening to their experiences and so on.
There are something extracurricular outside classroom.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I think those things are maybe more enduring than some of the learning. You know, those friendships may last when you've all forgotten about public policy or public admin or macroeconomics or things that you studied. You still value the friendships that you made.
Right. How was education in the UK? Did you enjoy it?
Yes, very much.
Yeah. What was your major?
In international business.
Okay. So I don't know about the UK education. I wanted to study in, I don't know, Cambridge or Manchester or something like back then when I was a fan. And I'm a fan of Manchester United, but I think for me, it was very difficult to go from high school to study abroad.
I don't think I'd be able to compare Kazakhstani universities with the UK one because since I got my master's at NU, and their mode of teaching and grading and everything doesn't differ much from the UK one, from the ones that are abroad, I wouldn't be able to say, oh, in Kazakhstan, universities are this and that. But I hear from my friends that, oh, you can do this exam by, like, I don't know, maybe bribing someone.
No, it's not about NU.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the new.
Because NU zero tolerance.
Yeah, definitely.
To plagiarism
This
and
is
cheating.
what I really liked because people do get acknowledged and graded for their knowledge, for what they acquired in classes.
Merit-based approach.
Yeah.
Meritocracy.
Yeah, definitely. And in the UK it was the same. Professors were also foreigners. It wasn't all about like local professors. There were people from like Germany, South Africa, and their mode of teaching didn't differ much from the ones that I got to see at the MPA program.
So you said that NU, GSPP, and NU is like good international educational institution.
I'm not even exaggerating. Not exaggerating because I worked there, because I studied there myself. No, definitely, I could see that there is not much difference in grading or how professors acknowledge the knowledge of their students.
Yeah, and I feel myself. One of the reasons why I applied to NU, it was like those who like advertise in you, they said that it would be like, good foreign education, but here in Astana, in the capital. That's why I thought, it's great to have foreign professors, but being at home. Yeah, and I think it's unique in this kind of sense. Because Bolashaq closed, yeah, but you went by the program Bolashaq, no? By yourself?
Self-paid.
Okay, self-paid, okay. But, Bolashaq closed and then a new opened.
For undergraduates.
Yeah, it's like 2010, yeah, something like that. And only graduates are now can afford to apply to Bolashaq to study abroad, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, even though I'm from ANU and ANU has benefited from that policy, I think there are some disadvantages to it. I mean, I think that students from Kazakhstan and other countries who go abroad, they get more than an education. They get experience of a different lifestyle, a different culture. So it's more than just the studying, the curriculum, the exams, the topic that they're studying. They soak up the kind of environment, the lifestyle, the cultural milieu in which they're living. So I think transferring Bolashaq money into Nazarbayev University at the undergraduate level, okay, so hopefully, and I'm pretty sure they'll get a very good education, but they lose those other benefits, all of that international experience that students, it's hard to quantify, but that you acquire by living somewhere else.
But what about brain drain? Many students went there, studied 4 years and never came back.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think, if we're insular about brain drain, then you lose good people. But if you look at it globally, some good people go to other places, some people from other places come here. So hopefully there's some kind of equilibrium about, Kazakhstanis returning here and maybe doing good things, or people from other places coming to Kazakhstan, as I have done.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a short-term visitor, but, hopefully if you look at that in the round, people bring different things to Kazakhstan. I mean, clearly it's not good to see young, talented people wanting to leave Kazakhstan. I can understand why. Some people feel that it's going to give their children a better life. But, there are significant improvements have happened in Kazakhstan. Nowhere is ideal, I think sometimes people in Kazakhstan look at foreign countries and think, if only I were here, there, or wherever.
The grass is greener
Elsewhere, yeah. Far away fields are green. That's not always true. Like so-called developed countries have many problems. I think for Kazakhstan, they've come a long way since 1991. I don't think you should. I'm not saying you're doing this, but I don't think one should devalue the progress that has been made in Kazakhstan and potentially the progress in the future. And in a way, Kazakhstan has picked elements of that international experience selectively and applied them, not just wholeheartedly say, right, we're going to follow blindly, to take an example, the Singapore model. Because all these experiences are very context specific, just to lift experiences from one culture to another.
Talking about policy transfer.
Policy transfer.
Copy pasting.
Yeah, copy pasting, yeah.
Yeah, but I remember when we started our conversation, we talked a lot about Western approach about everything. But in Asia, we have this kind of, I think, focus, or how to, many things are now emerging in Asia, right? I mean, Kazakhstan has so many Asian cultural, specific values and things. So we have more in common with, for example, Koreans, Japanese, and everything, because we had this long history of trade, religion, and many things. So do you think that Kazakhstan should kind of not only look at Western countries, but also think about these Asian neighbors and their way of development. But of course, like considering that they will not just copy paste their policies and their way to success, but maybe we'll definitely have our own way to become developed country. But what should we do in this sense? What do you think?
I think your first president said it very nicely, that we'll do things the Kazakh way.
Kazakh way. So we are not ready for democracy.
Well, maybe not go as far as that, but I'm saying that you could take forms of democracy that aren't wholeheartedly westernized.
And evolution approach, right? Not revolution.
Yeah,
evolution.
Incrementally. Improve. I mean, one of the things that I sometimes say to students in class, and we run these executive education programs for senior officials, vice ministers in GSPP. And understandably, what they want from foreigners like myself is they say, oh, tell us what the international experience is of this. You know, give us the international examples. And sometimes I say to them, you know, I'm not sure the comparison of saying what happens in Canada, in the United States, in Germany, in France, in the UK is directly transferable to Kazakhstan. I'm not sure that's the right comparator. I think it's much better for Kazakhstan to look at countries which are closer to their stage of development and take some of those things on board. I mean, even countries like post-Soviet countries like Georgia. I mean, Georgia in some ways has been very successful at very specific things, particularly corruption or anti-corruption. So I think like
civil society.
I think there's no like one size fits all. And I think Kazakhstan can do well by being selective about, okay, so we like this, we think this will fit in with our stage of development, our cultural acceptance of this, and move with it. So I think it's a little bit too general to just say, right, here's a model that we want Kazakhstan to follow. It will lead us to, you know, a crock of gold.
Top 30 countries. No?
Top 30 countries by 2050, yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so we hope, I mean, we have good education, right? As you said. You have these good values, right? And what else do we need to kind of develop faster?
I think we're actually getting closer to what our second president is saying, to Жаңа Kazakhstan.
New Kazakhstan.
New Kazakhstan.
Updated,
yes.
2.0.
Getting rid of all the corrupt officials.
Do you think the problem is in individuals?
First of all.
Not the system?
The system and individuals. Well, I don't know. We say рыба гниет с головы.
Балық басынан шіриді. You know?
Exactly.
The thing. It's like when the head is rotting.
From the fish.
Yes.
Fish. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. It's both. It's the system and
do you
individuals.
have this English version of this?
Yeah.
Fish
rots from the head downwards.
So it's universal statement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's the system and people as well. So we need to work both on people's minds that there should be zero tolerance to any kind of corruption.
Yeah, I think it's collective action. Like many people should start from themselves.
From themselves,
and as well, good policies should be introduced. So not only bottom up and not top down. I think it should be like, you know,
it really
two sides going.
It really surprises me that people shout from every corner that, we should get rid of those officials. We should get rid of the corruption.
Taxi drivers, I guess.
And taxi drivers themselves even. But yet those people who are against corruption, even those people, when they drive at night drunk, they still pay bribes so they don't get to, like,
it's
I don't know.
Mindset, yes.
Mentality.
Yeah, it's very, I think it's called hypocritical.
Hypocrisy, right?
Hypocrisy, to be like that. You really need to start from yourself in order to demand transparency from others, I think.
I mean, I think just to add to that point, often it is those people that are benefiting most from a system of corruption that are charged with implementing change. So why would you, I don't know if there's a Kazakh or Russian version of this, why would you shoot yourself in the foot? Why would you implement these changes if they're going to have a negative impact on your income, your lifestyle? So even though...
So we need to sacrifice something, right?
Yeah, I think even though like at the presidential level, at the political level, there may be a will to tackle some of these things, those charged with implementing it are self-interested and simply may do these things in a very tokenistic way. So you preach, no corruption, but if you're drunk, you can, pay to get home.
Yeah, we need to. I think actions speak louder, right?
Practice what you preach.
Practice what you preach. So, good deeds are not only. You need to be example, right? To be transparent, good, honest person, I guess. Yeah, and it starts from family, I guess. Yeah. So families should kind of instill these values to their children.
Yeah.
Large, small families.
This is your job going forward.
Yeah. So our duty, our job is to educate young generation to become honest, right?
We came to the family topic again.
Yeah, it's good. It's cycle. It's cycle. So we have this lack of time, unfortunately. Yeah, but I really enjoyed it.
Me too.
I think we can discuss many things. I mean, as I said, I like to talk a lot with smart people. Yeah.
Pleasure being with you, and especially with Adema, whose accent.
AKA Aigerim.
Whose accent I can understand perfectly.
Yeah, so yeah, I had this, understanding, good understanding. I don't think about accents and everything. If you understand the message,
sure.
I really listen to people.
Actually, Aigerim, Adema, and I couldn't understand you. We could understand each other.
I'm sorry. Okay. I will provide subtitles. Then you'll rewatch it, and you'll have my words. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much indeed.
Have a good week. Have a good time.
Thank you for inviting us. Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. Good luck.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And by the way, don't forget. Remember Kazakhstan. Yeah.
Chai Smolakom.
Chai Smolakom. Yeah.